Have you ever made one wrong turn, just one single decision in a moment of desperation, that changed your entire life forever? This is a story about a man who thought he was running from everything. He wasn't running toward God. He wasn't seeking answers or looking for redemption. No, he was running away, running from his past, from all the broken pieces he left behind, from his pain, from the memories that haunted him every single night, from everything he broke, every relationship, every promise, every dream that shattered in his hands. And that night, soaked to the bone and completely lost, he didn't care where he ended up. He had given up on destinations. He had given up on hope. He just needed somewhere to hide, somewhere to escape the rain, somewhere to disappear from a world that had forgotten him. That's when he saw the door, an old wooden door with light spilling through the cracks. He thought it was an empty building, maybe an abandoned warehouse, a shelter from the storm. He had no idea it was a church, a place he swore he'd never enter again. And he almost didn't walk in. His hand trembled on the handle, every instinct telling him to keep running. But something pulled him forward, something he couldn't explain, something stronger than his fear. And looking back now, we can see the truth clearly. This was not an accident. This was divine intervention. He stayed near the door, positioning himself strategically in the shadows, just in case he needed to run, just in case the walls started closing in. It felt wrong being there. Every fiber of his being screamed that he didn't belong in this sacred space. Every part of him wanted to leave, to bolt back into the rain, to return to the familiar darkness outside. But his feet wouldn't move. They were planted firmly on that church floor, as if held by an invisible force. So he stayed, dripping wet, broken, uncertain, but he stayed. He hadn't stepped into a church since he was a kid, since he was young and innocent, believing that prayers could move mountains. Before everything went bad, before life taught him that the world could be cruel and unforgiving, before prayers stopped working. Or at least, that's what it felt like when the one person he loved most needed a miracle. At least, that's what he believed. That God had stopped listening. That heaven had closed its doors to his desperate pleas. When she died, something in him died too. His mother, his anchor, his only source of unconditional love in this world. He swore he'd never come back, never set foot in a church again, never bow his head in prayer to a God who seemed absent when he needed him most. And for years, he kept that promise. Years of wandering, years of numbing the pain, years of running from the very mention of faith, until tonight, until desperation drove him through a door he thought he'd lock forever. He wasn't listening at first. The words from the pulpit were just background noise to his internal storm. He was just waiting for the storm outside to pass, counting the minutes until he could leave. But the storm wasn't just outside. There was a hurricane raging in his heart, a tempest of grief and anger and unanswered questions. Then the message started. The pastor opened his mouth and spoke words that seemed aimed directly at one person. And every word felt uncomfortable, like fingers pressing on fresh wounds, like light exposing things he'd hidden in darkness. The pastor spoke about running from God, about the futility of trying to outrun love itself. His heart skipped, a jolt of recognition, a shock of being seen. The pastor's voice rang out clearly. Some of you walked in here by mistake, thinking this was just shelter from the rain, just a random door in a desperate moment. But God does not make mistakes. Every step that brought you here was orchestrated by a love you can't comprehend. It felt personal, too personal, like the pastor had read his diary, seen his pain, known his story. Pain flooded back, memories he'd buried under years of alcohol and distractions and constant movement. So did memories he buried, beautiful memories of his mother's prayers, of her unwavering faith even as cancer ravaged her body, memories he thought were gone, erased by time and willful forgetting. He wanted to leave, his body tensed, ready to spring toward that exit. Every instinct screamed run. This is too much. This is too raw. This is too real. The door was right there. Freedom was just a few steps away. Escape was possible. Then the pastor continued, his words cutting through the air like a sword of truth. You think you chose this door, you think this was random chance, a coincidence in your wandering. But heaven opened it first. Before you even knew you needed it, grace was preparing a way. That was the moment everything shifted. The moment his armor began to crack. Everything else faded. The other people in the church, the rain outside, the reasons he was running. He stopped fighting. The resistance that had kept his heart hardened for years suddenly felt exhausting. For the first time in years, he let his guard down. Just a little. Just enough. Something broke inside him. A dam that had been holding back an ocean of grief. And something healed. In that same moment of breaking, there was mending. Paradoxical. Mysterious. Real. He didn't have words for it. How do you describe feeling shattered and whole at the same time? But he didn't need words. God doesn't require eloquence. He doesn't demand perfect theology. He just needed to stop running, to stand still, to let himself be found. And for the first time since losing her, since watching his mother take her last breath in that sterile hospital room, he felt peace. Not happiness, not the absence of pain, but peace in the midst of it. Not because the pain was gone. The grief was still there. The loss was still real. But because he wasn't carrying it alone anymore. Someone else had stepped into his burden. Someone stronger. Someone who understood. When the service ended, when the final prayer was spoken and the soft worship music faded, people started to leave. They gathered their belongings, exchanged quiet greetings, and made their way to the exits. He stayed frozen, glued to that back pew, unable to move forward or backward. The pastor invited anyone who was hurting. If you need prayer, if you need hope, the altar is open. Come as you are. His feet wouldn't move. Fear held him captive. Shame whispered that he wasn't worthy. Then he heard her voice, clear as day, though she'd been gone for over a decade. His mother's voice. I'm praying for you, baby. Always. I never stopped. Even from heaven, I never stopped believing in you. The one he lost. The one who knew him before the world hardened him. The one who never stopped believing. Even when he stopped believing in himself. Even when he walked away from everything she taught him. And suddenly he understood. A revelation that hit him like lightning. She never gave up on him. Through every mistake, every failure, every time he pushed God away, her prayers were still working. So why should he give up on himself? If her faith could persist beyond the grave, couldn't he have faith for one more moment? He stood, legs shaking, heart pounding, but he stood. The walk to the altar looked impossible. A journey of maybe 30 feet that felt like 30 miles. Every step felt like a mountain. Each movement forward was a battle against years of pride and pain. But he kept moving, one trembling step, then another, one step at a time. No rushing, no pretending to be strong, just honest, broken movement, fighting every doubt, every voice that said he'd fallen too far, every fear, every worry that God wouldn't want him back, every lie that said he wasn't worthy, every whisper that said it was too late for someone like him. And then he fell. His knees hit the altar floor, not gracefully, not religiously, just humanly, not in defeat. This wasn't surrender to hopelessness, but in surrender. Surrender to love. Surrender to grace. Surrender to being found. He didn't have rehearsed prayers. No thee and thou. No theological precision. No perfect words. No eloquent speeches. No promises he wasn't sure he could keep. Just honesty. I'm broken. I'm lost. I need help. I can't do this anymore. Just truth. The raw, unfiltered truth of his pain and his desperate need. And somehow that was enough. Those simple, broken words were enough. More than enough. Because God doesn't measure prayers by their poetry. He measures them by their sincerity. Because God doesn't need perfection. He just needs willingness. When he finally stood up, the weight was gone. Not the grief, not the memories, but the burden of carrying them alone. That was finally gone. He walked toward the door. The same door he almost ran from. But everything was different now. He stepped outside, and the rain had stopped, Even the sky looked different. The air felt cleaner. The world felt lighter. He looked back at the door that changed everything. That door, the wrong one, or maybe the only right one. He didn't plan to be there, didn't deserve to be there. But grace doesn't work that way. It meets you where you are, even in your running, even in your mistakes, even in your pain, because he was there all along, waiting at the door you almost didn't open, the door he'll never forget. This wasn't a story about religion. It was about a man who stopped running, long enough to be found by the love he thought had abandoned him, found by the grace that never gave up, even when he gave up on himself. Sometimes God meets us in our wrong turns, in the doors we stumble through by accident, in the moments we least expect, because he's not waiting for us to get it right. He's just waiting for us to stop running, to turn around and walk through the door that was always open, even when we convinced ourselves it was closed. This was his story, but maybe it's your story too. Maybe you've been running. Maybe you've passed the door. A wrong turn that was actually right. A mistake that was actually mercy. So here's the question. Not whether God is real, but whether you'll stop running long enough to find out. The door is open. It's always been open. And it's waiting for you. God uses wrong turns, broken roads, dark nights, desperate moments. So tell me, do you really think this was an accident, or was it always divine timing? The choice is yours. The door is open. Will you walk through,